Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramon, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I am so fired up to have you join us today. Wait to hear my guest and his story. I mean, you're going to bring some Kleenex out. You're going to learn a hell of a lot, and you're going to be inspired. That's for sure. Because that's what this podcast is about, is exploring the idea of doing business in life with a purpose. And that purpose is being a servant. Have a servant's heart. And we know it'll make a difference in your work and lives by doing that. We also created the show, and I'm bringing guests on that will educate you, inspire you, and motivate you. And that way you can make an impact in your world. Who doesn't want to make an impact? Even a small little impact, that little ripple in the water can make a huge difference in somebody's lives. Also, while you're listening to my show, I want you to think about how you're going to serve yourself today and others, and what impact you'll create today. And the key word is today. Not tomorrow, not next month, not next year, but listen to this wonderful podcast because I know it's going to be great. And then go serve somebody. And it could be as little as call your best friend. And I had somebody do that, and they hadn't talked to their friend in a year, and he had guilt. And when he called, the guilt dropped, anxiety dropped, and now they're meeting every week talking on the phone. You just never know the impact where it's going to come from. And I want to thank my incredible sponsor, Pantheon Alliance. Imagine being part of this exclusive community of high-income, successful business owners and entrepreneurs from very diverse industries. Together, they're building a thought leader platform to impact and change the world. If you want to be part of that and want to learn more, just reach out to me and I'll get you all the information. With that being said, my guest has an incredible backstory. We're going to start with that, but he motivates me when second time I've seen him. He doesn't know this. I'm going to say it on the recording and on this podcast. After we got done, he fired me up to start serving other people because his story's unique, but it's not unique. And we'll learn more today. Paul, so thank you for being on and thank you for being a guest.
Hey, Steve, I really appreciate it. Great to talk with you.
Let's start with the backstory, your background, how this all started, what came about.
Okay, so I was born with cerebral palsy, and if your viewers don't know what cerebral palsy is, it's lack of oxygen in the brain. It normally happens at labor, and as a result of this, it can leave one side of the body paralyzed, and this is permanent. It doesn't go away. So when I was born, my mom noticed that I wasn't moving very well from the right side of my body, and naturally she was concerned, so she took me to the doctor. And that's where I was diagnosed with the cerebral palsy. But this doctor thought it was so severe that he thought I would never, ever be able to walk. And it would be a good idea to get me in a wheelchair because that was going to be my life going forward. And I've had a lot of conversations with my mom about that, Steve. And naturally, when she heard that news for the first time, she was devastated. She told me she cried herself to sleep going, what was going to be the life of her baby boy? How was it going to be? And then she told me the next day when she was getting me ready to start the day, she said that I gave her a look if to say, Mom, do not let this be my story. I want to walk. And that mama bear inside of her started raging. She got a second opinion, a third opinion, a fourth opinion, finally found a physician willing to help. And with this physician's help and me doing physical therapy 5 to 6 times a week and my mom's unrelentless attitude to make sure I was walking between age 2 and 3, a feat that four other doctors said it was impossible for me to do, and I was doing, which it's amazing in itself. But, being that young, I really didn't know what was really going on. But I do remember being 5 and being put into soccer for the first time. And yes, I could walk, and yes, I could run a little bit, but I was very limited. Matter of fact, when I would run, I probably could run about 25 to 50 yards before my leg would give out and I'd be in a lot of pain. So playing soccer, which is a sport where you're running the whole darn time, that's a hard sport to play when you can only run 25 to 50 yards before your leg would give out. So I remember one day after practice, I was just fed up. I was just like, I was going to go to my mom and say, Mom, I don't want to play soccer anymore. I remember what my mom told me because it holds true to this day. She said, Paul, if you don't want to play soccer anymore, that is fine, but you need to honor your commitment. So you need to finish out that soccer season, and after that, you can do whatever you want. And that's hold true with me to this day. So I'm 44 years old, and I haven't played soccer since, but I honored that commitment. I stayed the course with that soccer. But in life and business, I honor my commitments, and then I evaluate if I want to continue going on. But I got a huge break roughly when I was about 6 or 7. I didn't know how huge this was going to be, but I got surgery on my right foot. And this was a game changer. It tightened up the tendon, gave me a little bit more spring in my step, and allowed me to run longer distances without feeling any pain. And I remember switching schools around this time after I did my recovery from the surgery. And I remember my first day of PE, we do our stretches, and the teacher goes, okay, guys, now run your lap. And I'm thinking to myself, here we go again. I'm going to run 25 to 50 yards. My leg's going to give out. And the kids are going to see that, and they're going to start to tease me. Because of the surgery, it was different. I remember saying to myself, come on, Paul, you got this. You got this. And I went past that point where I normally have to stop, and I finished the lap with everybody else. On the outside, I kept it cool. But the inside is like, yes, 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 yes. It was my first time in my young life where I fit in. I didn't stand out. I was just like everybody else. And things got easier for me because of the surgery. But I wouldn't consider them easy. When I was about 12 or 13, my parents decided to get a divorce. So I had to switch schools at that time. And that's a tough age to switch schools at. Kids are becoming teenagers. They're coming through hormonal changes. And a lot of these kids have been going to school with each other for years and years, and they've already formed their cliques. And they don't have time for new people. So just being a new kid alone is going to be tough. But I'm a new kid who walks with a little bit of a limp and holds his right arm differently. So when I got into the school, I couldn't make a friend to save my life. I was bullied, teased, spit on, tackled, you name it, they did it to me. And while this was going on, I was raised Catholic. So when I got to high school, my mom wanted me to be put into a Catholic high school. So I had to take an assessment test to see where they were going to place me when I got to high school. Well, Steve, I must have bombed that test, because when I met with the principal and my mom, the principal tells the both of us that she's going to put me at the lowest level possible, and she does not expect much from me. I don't seem like I'm in me college material. After one test, this principal says this to the both of us. So now I think I'm stupid. I'm going back to a school that doesn't accept me. I have no friends. I'm crying myself to sleep most nights, going, why me? Why do I have to go through this? I don't know what came over me, but the start of 8th grade, I was just sick and tired of being angry and sad all the time. I knew deep down they weren't my go-to emotions, but I knew I needed to change something. So I thought, what if I set a goal for myself? And at the time, I loved baseball. So I said, what if I try to make my varsity baseball team in high school? And this pretty much changed my life as I started playing fall ball, winter ball, spring ball. And I wasn't doing that or throwing a tennis ball against the wall. And the reason why it changed my life is, one is because when I was playing the sports, I was starting to see the same kids over and over again, and they started accepting me. Two is because I started to gain confidence with coaches. Coaches would take a liking to me, and they would hit balls to me after practice. And I remember one coach in particular. He told me, he goes, Paul, you play a lot of baseball. What do you want to do with this? And when he first said that to me, I didn't want to tell him I wanted to make my varsity baseball team because I didn't want him to laugh at me. But he kept asking me that question. And one day he caught me on a weak moment, and I blurted out I wanted to make my varsity baseball team. And I'm like, oh crap. I can't believe I just said that to him.
That's out of the bag.
Yep. And he paused for a second, and he said, that's doable. And I'm like, what? That's doable? He goes, yeah, that's absolutely doable, but you have to have other people keep you accountable for that. I'm like, what do you mean by that? He goes, after practice tomorrow, you're going to tell the team that's your goal. I'm like, no, 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 no. These kids just start accepting me. If I tell them something silly like that, they're going to start to make fun of me again. He goes, Paul, there's going to be times in this journey that you're not going to feel it. And you're going to need the tough love from your teammates to push you when you're not feeling it. So they need to absolutely know your goal. So reluctantly, I went in front of the team and I was shaking. And I told the kids my goal. And they didn't laugh at me either. They clapped for me. And this, like I said, changed my life, because when I got into high school, I started to have friends, because some of those kids that I was playing Little League with, they actually went to high school with me. So because of that, I started sending a different energy out towards the kids. I had my shoulders back, my head up. I had a different confidence about myself. And as a result of this energy that I was sending out to these kids, they were sending a different energy back towards me. Instead of bullying and teasing me, they started rooting for me, all because of my energy shift. And that alone is the win. But the cherry on top was I was able to make my varsity baseball team as a junior and a senior. In my senior year, I pitched a 3-hit shutout. They poured the Gatorade on me, and I felt so alive. I felt so great about myself.
Wow.
I graduate high school, and I really start to reflect on that goal. Like I told you earlier, I didn't think I was going to make this goal a reality. It was just something to do to ignore the noise, but I was able to make this a reality, to make this varsity baseball team. So I started to really think about what that principal said to me years earlier about not being college material. See, Steve, all through high school, I started playing that in my head, saying that I wasn't, that fake, that false narrative that I wasn't college material. So in school, I just did enough to get by. I just did enough to stay eligible to play baseball, because in the back of my head, I'm like, what's the point? I'm not college material. Let's not waste time here. Let's just do the bare minimum and move on with yourself. So my grades weren't great, but I thought, wow, if I could set a goal for myself to make a varsity high school baseball team with cerebral palsy, why can't I set another goal for myself to say that I am college material? So I enrolled into a junior college, because that was the only place that would accept me at the time. I got myself a math tutor. I got myself an English tutor. I went to the math lab. I did everything necessary to increase my grade point average. And I took my barely a 2.0 all the way to a 3.5. And I was able to transfer to a 4-year university and become college material. And I so wanted to go back to that principal and say, see, you're wrong. I was college material. But I think about it now, and I'm like, I should thank her, because I heard her voice all through college saying I wasn't college material, and my next thought was, I'll show you I am. So I don't know if I would hit the books as hard as I did if I didn't have that teacher or that principal tell me that. So
Motivation.
that's pretty much the start of my journey. Let me just pause, because I said a lot there.
No, and you did, with great lessons to be learned. One quick shout out. What's Mama Bear's name?
Terry.
So we shout out to Terry, because she didn't give up. She gives up, you give up. I mean, it takes people. And then shout out, what's the coach's name?
Coach Trout.
And the reason I do that, audience, because those are two servants' hearts. He was blessed with a mother that had resilience, and a coach that didn't believe no was an answer, and pushed you to be uncomfortable. That's what you do as a servant's heart. So with that being said, has your mindset changed now as an adult because of those two stories?
I'm a completely different person because of those two stories.
Yeah. Do you think it makes you a better servant?
Absolutely, because I have an empathy that I didn't have before going through that. And as I look at it, going through my life, people come to me if they're angry, sad. I do my best to try to give them a benefit of the doubt, because I'm not in their head. They could be going through something that I have no idea about. So I have that pause now, and I probably didn't have that pause if I didn't go through those two stories.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Let's talk about your ebook. You have a book, and your story is so incredible. More people, I hope they listen to this podcast and learn from it, because I'm going to say real quick, when we first met, I've never told you this, but you inspired me to go out and serve 2 people that day because of your story. I didn't go through that, but I sure lived through it, and I lived through it again, like goosebumps. And an audience, if you haven't lived through a life that lived through people like Paul, and learn, because that's what a servant's heart does. So let's talk about your ebook. What's it about? What's the mission of it?
So basically, I have a theme for when I wrote the book, and when I do my speeches, and when I'm talking to the high school and college athletes on mindset, it's don't give up your pen. It's your story to write, and your story to write alone. Because all through my life, people have wanted to take the pen from me and write how my story should have went. And all through my life, I said, no, give me back my pen. I'm going to write the story how I want it written. So that's what the ebook's about. How I was able to rewrite my story, and how you are able to rewrite your own story. Because it's all about you. It's all about, you are the author. You have control of your story. And as soon as you realize that you have control of your story, things will change for you. But you allow people to write your story for you, you will continue to have those same patterns.
Yeah. The other thing I want to mention to your whole story is sports was the bridge there. That's why I think kids need to play sport. And it could be band, it could be cheerleader, it doesn't have to be sports. But if you never played baseball, where would you be today?
I really don't know. I mean, I could be, I could have been doing drugs, or doing some other stuff. I could have went another route. And that's a great point. That because I chose going the sports route, that community, that positive community with the coaches and the teams that I went with, that I played with, they were my family, and I was able to lean on them. And I could have gone another route, and my story would be totally different because of
it. Take that pen and rewritten. And Mama Bear taught you, all of us in the lesson, and of course you, is honor your commitments.
Mm-hmm.
Today, that's not happening much. I'm going to be flat honest, and I think you agree, Paul. What was your feeling when your mom said that and said honor your commitment, even though you're so uncomfortable, so distressed by this?
Well, at 5, I really, at 5, you're at the age where you really just listen to your mom. Your mom tells you to do something, you do it. But I've always thought about that. Like later in life, like it just was ingrained in me. Like honor your commitment, honor your commitment. My mom's the type of person where she doesn't like to wallow in problems. So like I remember early on in my life, like I probably wanted her to be like, oh, come on, like give me that warmth, like blah blah blah. She was always in problem solving mood. If I went to where with the problem, she's like, okay, whatever, let's deal with the problem. The past is the past. And sometimes I would want like to wallow in it a little bit. And she told me early on, she goes, Paul, she goes, yeah, if you need time to process this with your emotions and everything like that, that's cool. Do that. But then when you're ready to have some action, come to me, and I'll help you find a solution to the problem. So I've always been that way till this day. I go, okay, let me give me my moment to wallow in it, and then when I'm ready, let's go. Let's figure out a way to get out of the problem. I mean, it does no good sometimes just to tell everybody about the mistakes about I made or somebody else made, and this and that, go into. I mean, like you could do it a little bit so you can learn from the lesson. But if you're just constantly just going, oh, if Mr. Johnson would have done blah blah blah, or Miss Sally would have done this, it wouldn't happen. Well, it did happen, and now we have to deal with it and figure out a solution. It's really easy to point out problems. It's very hard to come in and find solutions for those problems.
Yeah, that's so well said. And you're blessed with 2 wonderful mentors, Mama Bear and Coach. And, audience, remind who those are and listen to those stories that you've learned, because it makes me think of my dad. He used to say, don't recreate the wheel. He bred that in me. Go out to Paul or somebody and they'll help you figure it out. You don't have to do it alone. Your mindset is just off the charts. I love how you think, your attitude, and part of that because you're blessed and you feel blessed. But what do you think defines a great mindset?
I think what defines a great mindset is allowing a space for gratitude. I think is huge. Say to yourself, if you're having a rough go of things, say to yourself, what is going well in my life? And I get it. I've had plenty of tough days. I still have plenty of tough days. And there's days where I'm frustrated, where I go, where I go, there's nothing going great in my life. And that's the day where I really need to take the time to really think about what's going well in my life, because that's the only way that things are going to change. So being able to, I think with having to answer your question, is having having thoughts in your head and realizing that does not have to be a reality. That could just be a cloud floating by. And if you have that thought process that these negative thoughts don't have to be a reality, I think can make to a great mindset, because you can say, you know what, there's no way I'm going to get 20 clients. There's no way, or there's no way I'm going to get paid 20 G's for a speaking gig. Those are just thoughts. That does not have to be my reality. You can say, oh, you know what, that's an interesting thought, but you know what, I'll find a way. I'll find a solution to this problem.
And just go back to the principal telling you you'll never make it in college, and look what you did. As audience, if that's a lesson and you're struggling with that right now, think about it. Plus, he had possible cerebral palsy, was told he would. I mean, we go on and on. You guys have heard his story. If you haven't, go back and listen, because that's the power of it. I haven't gone through cerebral palsy, but like I said earlier, I go through you. I hear your story. I hear your struggles, how you overcame it. Well, if I got a stub toe, hello, I should still do my workout. I should do those things. I should make those calls or whatever it may be. Even though it's uncomfortable, you're going to eventually be comfortable. We're coming pretty close to the end here. Talk about your podcast and what's it about and what's the mission of that?
So I live in Southern California. To be specific, I live in Long Beach, and I'm really heavily involved in Long Beach. So I thought, well, what can I do to highlight the city of Long Beach, California? And I thought, well, you know what? Why don't I start a podcast? So I started a podcast a few years ago, and I call it "It's a Long Beach Thing," and it's available on Spotify, YouTube, all the major players there. And I bring on people in the know of Long Beach. Matter of fact, I just had Rex Richardson, the mayor of Long Beach, there. I've had people in the community, and I have them just talk about their experience in Long Beach. And I really only have two set questions. I go, "What's your association with Long Beach?" And then we just get into a conversation like we're doing here with you, Steve. And then the last question I ask is, "Where are your favorite places to eat around town?" And we have a fun time with that. So that's what it's all about. It's just kind of promoting the community, promoting Long Beach, because I love my city so much.
And that's the power of podcasting. You have a passion, you can share that passion with others. I love that. Has nothing to do with your business, nothing to do with your story. It has to do with, I love my city and I want to promote it. Powerful lesson there, audience. I think you guys can figure that out. Let's end with a great question. I like to have fun, learn a little bit more about Paul, actually delve deep today, and I appreciate you being very transparent. But you have a reservation in Long Beach at a restaurant. You got a table for 4 reserved. You're going to sit in one of the chairs. The other 3 empty chairs, dead or alive, who would you invite? Why would you invite them? And what food would you order?
Okay, so all right. Well, that's a great question. It's a powerful question. So I would probably say, one of the people that I would invite is Vince Scully, who used to be the announcer for the Dodgers. I know the while this podcast is going on, the Dodgers are in the World Series against the Yankees, but that's not really the reason why. I've always enjoyed his talks. I feel like when he's calling a game, it's more like a Shakespearean experience rather than just a game. He shares. He was a Catholic as well, so he shares the same faith as I do. So it'd be kind of fun to talk to him, see how he has so many experiences, so many stories to share. So I definitely have him there. Gosh, I would have to have my mom. My mom's alive, still alive, thank goodness. I definitely have to have her there, just because she's, as far as energy is concerned and listening is concerned, she's tops. I mean, I don't know a better listener, a better person of reading people than my mom. So I'd have to have my mom there. And then I have 2 other people, or is it one other person?
You go 2, 1 or 2. It's your table. You can have
okay,
4.
so I'll make it 4, and I'll be the 4th. And my last person I would say is I would want, gosh, you know what? Well, I would want, I'm really into the Revolutionary War. So I would like to have George Washington at my table because I'm very fascinated with the struggles that the forefathers did to make this country, America. So I'd love to have him at the table as well.
What would you order?
Well, I love Mexican food, so I think I would have Mexican food.
Beautiful. And I gotta say, the conversation with Vin Scully and George Washington, I would love to hear that. Fly on the wall. Him trying to explain baseball to him would be great. And audience, on a side note, I'm a San Francisco Giants fan. I'm in the Bay Area. We're a bitter rival. And I'm glad you mentioned Vin Scully because I respect him so much. Even though it's, we hate it, don't hate, but there's such a bitter rivalry. He's one of the best announcers ever. I love listening to him. So that was a great call.
And you guys have a great announcer too, in John Miller.
Yeah, we're blessed. I think both of us been blessed. Sorry, Vin's gone now, but yeah, we've been very lucky on both our baseball teams. So that's really cool. You've been a blessing. You've been a rock star. You've been resilient. People are probably trying to figure out how to get a hold of you. How can they support you and connect with you?
I think the easiest way to get a hold of me is just go on my website. It's a call to action.coach. I'm old school, so I come from a sales background, so I don't care that people have my number. So my number is on my website. So you can go on my website and directly call me, or you can make an appointment through my website, however you want to do it. But I'm very accessible.
Perfect. I'll have that in the show notes. And audience, call to action, subscribe to the YouTube channel because you'll have access to Paul and his story. Because you know what? I think podcasts are so cool because you could share them. You listen to it and you go, God, my friend had cerebral palsy or is struggling. Just share this podcast, have them listen to it. I guarantee you they're going to be inspired and motivated because I know I was and I am again because of what these great things that Paul has done and learned from and incorporate in his life. The other thing is comment on the YouTube channel. If it's a comment for Paul, I'll get that comment to him. Pop on there. If it's a critique to this podcast, I'd love to hear it because me and Paul know this show is all about you, the audience, not about us. We're here, as I said, to motivate, inspire, and educate you. And with that being said, me and Paul want to thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. We'll see you on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.